Welcome, everyone. It's the Mike Tech Show, show number 970. Today, stories from the trenches. Going to talk about a couple domain transfers and, just some more detail, what to look for, what to make sure you're ready and preparing. If you've never done that, or even if you have, just some things to look out for. More DNS changes, and then file migration. We're going to talk about server partitions. And a lot of this stems from you, the listener. There are 3 listeners this week that I am or have already assisted. So we're going to talk about those. Today's show is brought to you by Instant House Call. If you need remote support, then there is nothing like Instant House Call for your solution. If you are an IT professional, this is a must. And one of the things that you need to do is you can get an incredible price for $47 for the first year by just going to MikeNation.net and then clicking on the Instant House Call. You can click on the ad on the left or just click on the orange link for an incredible deal. But more than that, something we had to do this week. In Instant House Call, we couldn't remember for a timesheet for my son what day did he help someone. And we went back and looked at the system because we know we put unattended access. So if you right click once you launch the specialist login and pick unattended access, and then go down to the system that you want and highlight it and right click and look at customer summary. And it told us the last time, what the connection was, and the date. And it was great for figuring out the billing and the timesheet, because one of the problems when we get knee deep in support help, it's logging and tracking all of that. And if we're not good at that, then we have to go back to what? Your email. You got to go back to the phone log where you can scroll through all the calls. And then now, hey, we use our Synchro for managing clients, so we can always look at the last time we accessed the system. But Instant House Call has that summary, and I've never talked about that. So just one of those extras that you get. And there are so many features that there's just not enough time to talk about. You need to test it out and explore it. So, all right, let's get cooking on this show. First, I want to, hope everybody had a safe and happy Thanksgiving. My Thanksgiving consisted of my wife coming home from the rehab facility from her knee surgery on Wednesday, and that all went well. Now, planning Thanksgiving when no one wants to cook, and there's no way Dorothy could stand and cook. I had already planned. There's a restaurant nearby in our town, and it's called the Village Inn, and I think that's I think that's a chain, and it's almost like a little diner. They had Thanksgiving meals that you could pre-order. And we're not talking ones that like it's the full turkey and everything. We're just actually talking a meal, which was, sliced turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, a little cranberry sauce, and a roll. And then you got to pick dessert. Now, when I was there, I had not put an order in for pumpkin pie. My wife loves pumpkin pie. I can't stand pumpkin, and that came up in the chat today. I am one of the few people that in the world that just I don't like pumpkin, and she does, and it was great. I was able to get a pumpkin pie that they had extras that weren't being picked up, and I was able to come home with the dinner, which tasted great, and there was no cleanup, no mess. And Thanksgiving was great with very little work. So that was our Thanksgiving, just Dorothy and I spending that at home. And we're very, very grateful that she was able to get home. And now It's rehab time. It's a physical therapy and getting, trying to get the knee back to 100%. So, okay. Domain transfers. One of the things that you have to do is when you're leaving one domain registrar, like maybe it's Network Solutions, maybe you're going from Network Solutions to GoDaddy, or waiting to hear some of the two examples I have this week. So you need to go in to the where it's originally hosted and take snippet screenshots or write them down. Get every record that you can that's listed in the DNS and make sure you know what it is, because that's critical, because you're going to need to rebuild the DNS after the transfer, and here's why. So when you do a transfer, especially into GoDaddy, which I always like, I like GoDaddy for the DNS editing. It's simple, you have full control, and it's instantaneous almost when you make the change or you add a DNS record. And this week I have a client that the CEO has a lot of domains that his wife's business, her domains are commingled in the major business of my client. And so for years, never changed it, but now there's actual real work happening, and I can't give the keys to the kingdom of the people that are working on the CEO's wife's website and possibly changing her email, and they wanted access, and I don't want to give them that access. So I recommended that they transfer, that we initialize and start the transfer where they create their own GoDaddy account. And this happens fairly quickly. So you can go from GoDaddy to GoDaddy. As a matter of fact, when you unlock the domain in GoDaddy, which is the first step of any registrar, you have to unlock the domain. Sometimes I remember with some clients, we had to beg tech support because we didn't have control to be able to unlock our own domain, and had to send a request to unlock it. And of course, the smaller companies are resistant to that because they know you're going to be transferring out if you're unlocking the domain. And anybody unfamiliar with that, that's to protect. If a domain's locked, nobody can transfer it away. So they can, so you would lose your domain. So in GoDaddy, are you transferring it to a third party, or are you going from GoDaddy to GoDaddy? And there were 10 domain names, and I went into each one and initiated the domain. But the first thing you need is, where are you transferring it to? And it makes this very easy. You need the email of the new GoDaddy account. What is the primary email for managing that GoDaddy account? They gave me that after they created it, and then I went into each one and initiated that, and it went very smooth. Within 24 hours, they had all the domains and had full control, and now they can go do whatever they want, but I offered my assistance if they need advice or help. I'm there. But I cannot risk somebody foreign that I don't understand, because there's too many people out there that do not understand DNS. And I've seen some great harm come to clients where they've given the keys to the kingdom, and you've heard me talk about it, to the web developers who do not understand DNS whatsoever and screw everything up. So that was one thing that happened this week. The next one is a client that is moving from Earthlink to GoDaddy. Yes, I said Earthlink. And I took pictures of everything, And we did this not last week, but the week before we initiated the transfer. So I had the client open their own GoDaddy account. And then what I would do is I went into their Earthlink DNS and I took a picture of everything, which is a very good thing. Next, I waited until the transfer happened. So here's what happens when you're coming into GoDaddy. The name servers remained Earthlink. So this way it does not disrupt any of the DNS settings. So that's what you want for the transfer. And once the transfer happened, I arranged for yesterday. We scheduled once the domain just happened. The transfer happened right before Thanksgiving. So yesterday afternoon, I had a meeting with the owner's son who was initiating the transfer. I manage everything, but I wanted them to own it. I don't ever want to own the domain name and control. I want the end user. I want my client to be the owner in case something happens to me. How many times have we tried to take over the DNS for someone and their old IT had control and maybe wouldn't let go? Been there. And I don't want to cause that for any client. So once once we did the transfer, now I'm logging in to the GoDaddy account and I want to take control of the name servers, which means once I do that and I change the name servers from Earthlink to the default name servers of GoDaddy. And the reason I want to do this is because we're going to have specific DNS entries that we're going to have to make because they're moving the website from, I think it's hosted at Earthlink, and they're going to migrate to Wix. So Wix, we're going to do it where we bring our own domain. And so we're going to have an A record and a C name record. We're going to have a couple of records we're going to have to add. I think first is a text record to prove you own the domain. So since we need to edit the domain, the name servers have to be GoDaddy if the domain's at GoDaddy in order for us to edit DNS records. I hope I didn't lose everybody on that. So once you do that, that's it. GoDaddy wipes the DNS and makes it their default, just like you bought a brand new domain on GoDaddy and you have the name servers. So quickly, I did the MX record. I did the A record for where their website is currently hosted, and then went in and did the SPF record. And then, of course, their email's hosted at Microsoft. So I entered the two DKIM CNAME records, and then the text record for SPF and the text record for DMARC. And you can look that up how to do it, or go back to past shows where I go deep into the weeds talking about those records, and I have great links on past websites, on past shows about that in the show notes. So let's take a look at something that I think is important, and I'm going to bring up here we go for DNS. Let me show you. So this is going to be in the show notes today, and it's how to invite a delegate to access my GoDaddy account. So this is what I had the user do, and they would you have to go to the settings, and then you go to the delegate access page, and you invite someone to access it. And you give the name, the email address, and then I need to be able to take control of everything. So products, domains, and purchase. So this, I clicked the invite. I had them. And as a matter of fact, I was remoted in via instant house call while I was doing this. And they wanted to make sure that I have control. So this way I have the two-factor authentication on, and I don't have to be bothered with getting the two-factor authentication from the owner or whoever is currently managing, they're overseeing it. But they don't understand DNS. I do. I've been a long time, they've been a long time client of mine. So my biggest clients, this is what I have, which is delegate access to their GoDaddy. And I think that's the right thing to do for you managing the DNS for a client or a family member or friend. Let them be the owner, but then you do you can manage it and make any changes as needed just by logging into your main GoDaddy account. So let's say you don't have any websites or anything within GoDaddy. Create an account with no products. And now you have your email associated with that. And that's what you can use to then have your client invite you. So now you can access all your clients' DNS. So that's how I operate. Now, let's move on to the rest of the DNS and stories for today. Had to also make DNS changes, and this is where it got complicated. I didn't have delegate access. So we have the web designer for a client, and this client's in Ohio. And then the person who is the multi-factor authentication cell phone, her phone, and she was tied up in meetings at a conference. We couldn't coordinate getting the code. And I have the web developer needing me to make an A record change so their new website can go live. And that was a mess. So it took 2 days to coordinate getting the code so I could log in. And that's a great example as to why now I don't have to worry about that. So that was one thing that triggered, I finally was able to make the DNS change. But, you might have the wrong person in control of the multi-factor authentication. So you want to make sure that you have access to that. So now there are clients that will not give delegate access, even though they don't understand DNS. And so if I'm going to make a change, I have to coordinate with the owner to be able to get that code to be able to go in and make a change. So wanted to cover that. 3 emails over the last 2 weeks from listeners asking me for assistance. Some of them I've helped in the past too, asking for assistance from a consulting basis. And please reach out to me if you. I'm gonna go over 3 stories here for the balance of the show. And one of the things I want to make sure is that you understand you can reach out to me, miketechshow@gmail.com, or my business email, which is mike@mhsconsulting.net. And we can have at least an initial conversation. Hey, how can I help you? And I'm going to go over 3 examples here. But before I do that, I want you to take a look at, and I'm going to have links for this. It's an Etsy site, and it's owned by my son, Ryan, my middle son, who takes photos of bands. He photographs bands and is in the pit for those first 3 songs where you see the photographers taking pictures. And he's created a site called Concert Instas. And I'm thinking Christmas, because one of the things he's been doing is, and by the way, 25-star reviews, he is putting 2026 calendars together, which I think is just awesome. And I'm going to have a link. And could you imagine? Here you go. He's got a 90s alternative rock Legends of Concert calendar, Godsmack, Third Eye Blind, Bush, Goo Goo Dolls, Counting Crows, and more. These are all his pictures that he's taken. And one of the things I know he's really proud of, and they've been selling a lot of, is the 21 Pilots. So why am I doing this? Why am I talking about this? And he has also instant pictures. So, and there's a Black Friday discount. So you want to take advantage of this. Take a look at this shot, which is the 21 Pilots. He caught that, and you see the jump in midair for 21 Pilots. He has taken some great photographs that the group has used them. As a matter of fact, he photographed the Pretenders, and they used a couple of his photos for all of their social media campaign for that tour. And that led him to actually photographing Pearl Jam. Anyway, if you have a music lover in your life that you're looking for that great gift, you can get some digital prints, real inexpensive, or you can get a 2026 calendar, which I think is an awesome gift. So I just wanted to take a moment and give a shout out for this concert. The what is he called? The website. Give me a second here. Concert Instas, and this is an Etsy shop. And of course, I will have this link in the show notes. So check that out. There's some great photos. All right. So let's get back to the work that I've been doing. And the first one, and I'm not finished yet, is from Pete. And Pete, longtime listener, he's been listening since show 1. And we've conversed, and I haven't heard from him in a while, and it's nice. He's doing an email migration from a Network Solutions hosted email to Proton email, where he's got a paid account at Proton. Here's the thing. I first wanted to understand, how is he getting his email? How he doesn't care about migrating the mail. It's all about the DNS. So what we're going to do is, he has full access in Network Solutions to the DNS. We're just going to have to make the appropriate Proton changes. And we have a meeting scheduled Tuesday where I'll instant house call him, and I will connect to his system, and he'll get me logged into the DNS. And then we will start going through the process with Proton and make all those changes. So he doesn't feel comfortable with the DNS part. I do. So that's a perfect example. Here's another one, which is from, no, I was going to say Pat. No, we're going to go Neil. Neil he has an office running dental software on a server 2019, and he wants to extend the partition because the initial partition where he inherited this client has too small of a C drive. I run into this all the time. So how do you extend the partition? He went through the whole process, but guess what? It won't let him, because it's telling him there's not enough unallocated space to be able to extend that volume. So how do you do it? And so Neil reached out. We had a quick phone call this week where, when I finally got to him, because it just took a couple days, he had already made an executive decision. Since it's not a domain controller, they're just using it for file storage and for hosting the software. They can do that on a peer server, where he could put a new peer server workstation with the volumes preset with the correct size that he needs. And then he just needs to convert the database over for the software, and the software manufacturer is going to help him do that. So that was sort of already done, but it brings up an interesting point. How do you extend a partition without rebuilding the server, or without taking the data volume and blowing that away by then backing up everything and then blowing it away and then extending the partition naturally, and then you got to put all the data back, and then of course rebuild shares and everything that you were doing? Is there a third party that you trust software? And of course you would never attempt this without a full image backup of the entire server. What would you recommend? I would really like to know that, and then I'll bring that up on a future show topic, how to extend and increase or decrease the partition size on a live server. Now, this one happened to be server 2019, but we're talking any server. Let me know. miketechshow@gmail.com. I would greatly appreciate it because that's something I wouldn't mind having in my tool bag ready to go for or ready to purchase if we were going to do it. So this is interesting. And this is from Pat. And I want to make sure that what would you do, for this? So he's got a lot of data that is hosted on a Google Drive. He needs to move it to another Google Drive. So he's going from Google Drive to Google Drive. What software do you recommend? And I remember a listener actually talking about this, and this is going to be in the show notes also. And we talked about this, and it's called VaultMe. Now, VaultMe allows you to move from Google Workspace to Microsoft. It's almost like what BitTitan Migration Wizard, which I use a few times for some mail migrations, but I've never done a data file migration. I know BitTitan can do it, but that gets a little complicated. He's going to use VaultMe, and I asked him to give me a review of this when he's finished. So Pat's going to do a review after he completes this, if it's all successful, or even if it's not successful. I want to know, Pat. So right now he's going with VaultMe. I recommended something, but it's an extra step that you may not want to go through, and that is SyncBack Pro, which I talk about. I love the free version, but I have the Pro version, which I use to back up my OneDrive, but I'm backing it up to an external drive that's connected to my computer. It's how I back up my website. So you can put the cloud credentials in there and have it copy. I've never went from cloud to cloud with that software. I'm sure it would work. You just have to key it in. Or if you wanted to have a two-step process where I would bring it all down locally. Once it's there, then you could use a SyncBack Pro to move it out. Now, here there's he's going to try it. I said do a test and maybe just do a couple gigs, which is probably all it's going to do. And so this is VaultMe. And what I would like to know, and it's vaultme.com, what have you used for this? Have you used anything like that? Again, miketechshow@gmail.com. I would love to know. So this is where I love the interaction with everyone, giving me recommendations for this, which then I'll share with everybody. So what product are you using to resize a server partition? What product are you looking at for doing a cloud migration like that, for a file migration? And I want to know programs that you've successfully used. One thing that I have to share, which is very cool, and anytime Neil asks me, and Neil's from San Antonio, Texas, and anytime he runs into a big IT question, his wife asks him, what would Mike do? And I think that is so cool because they listen to the show. And so he starts out his email. My wife asked, what would Mike do? So I am asking. And that's when he went into the rest of his email. I love that. That just, chills up my spine for that. So I want to thank everybody. Again, I really hope you had a great holiday weekend. And thank you for staying subscribed, watching the videos. Hey, if you go to YouTube and you see the video, click subscribe. It's Michael Smith MTS. Click the like button, click subscribe. I really appreciate it. And hey, don't forget, if you go to the main website and you feel like, you're in a generous mood in the holiday season, make a donation to the podcast. I greatly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Everybody, I hopefully will be on a regular schedule, at least for the next few weeks. But then we got Christmas and New Year's Day both on Thursdays. So because of that, when am I going to do the shows? And I'm thinking the Saturday after Christmas, and then the first show of 2026, the Saturday after New Year's. But New Year's Eve, I will definitely be doing my show live right from here in Florida, at least as of now, with bearing nothing else happening. So I will definitely be live on New Year's Eve. So at least for the next couple weeks, Thursday nights, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. Thank you. Have a good balance of your weekend. Bye-bye.